Thing number three, Gary, we're going to Costco, ticker COST. They're selling platinum bars now in addition to gold. Um, is the dollar in great shape? Gary, you're saying you're skeptical. I think we all know that. Thing number three, Gary, Costco adds platinum to its precious metals lineup, along the same vein of what you were just describing.
All right, Rob, a little economic history here. Um, when the United States established the Federal Reserve Bank, um, a little over 100 years ago in the early 1900s, it actually was effectively the third national bank of the United States. The first two failed horribly and, should have never been tried. And so, somebody figured out, well, if we call it the third national bank, everybody's going to figure out. They called it the Federal Reserve. That sounded a lot more secure. And what that did was they made it possible for the government to have more control over the currency and for us to run the massive debts and deficits that we do now. Then a couple of decades later, then President Franklin Roosevelt took us off he didn't take us off the gold standard, but what he did was he confiscated everybody's gold and then revalued the dollar, right? So he said, give me your gold. I'm going to give you dollars. And then the minute it was done, he said, by the way, your dollars are worth less. And then in 1971, President Nixon took us off the gold standard. The reason he did was because the United States didn't have enough gold to cover our debts. We had printed and sent out to the world more currency than we had gold to back it. So now the dollar is backed by faith and credit. And, we talked about this last week. That's the credit of an institution that has $36 trillion of on balance sheet debt, another $200 trillion of off balance sheet. So almost a quarter of a quadrillion dollars of debt. That credit could not be rated any worse. I don't understand why anybody would extend the US government any credit except for the fact that it can print dollars, so technically can't default. As for faith, I would suggest that your faith be placed in other places. And, the truth is, if you had faith in the government, you probably wouldn't be watching Deep Knowledge Investing's Five Things. So the result of all of this is more and more people are getting interested in owning physical gold. And the reason for that is because we're all seeing inflation. Now, inflation used to be defined as an expansion of the money supply. And then they got redefined to mean an increase in prices. And the way I like to reframe it for people is to point out that what it really means is a loss of purchasing power of your dollars, where gold is holding its purchasing power. And that's why gold is now at all-time highs. Costco, realizing this, a little over a year ago, started selling gold bars to their customers and couldn't keep them in stock. I mean, they sold $200 million, 1/5 of $1 billion worth of gold bars per month. At this point, they've sold a couple of $1 billion worth of gold bars. And, just I think it was last week, it might have been 2 weeks ago. But Costco has started to say, you know what? We're not only going to sell gold bars, now they're selling platinum as well. And as of last week, I think it was Alex who looked this up. Great job by the DKI interns. Costco was selling 1 ounce platinum bars for $1,089.99, so $1,090, which was a small markup from the then current platinum spot price of $1,025. So Costco is now selling gold. They're selling platinum bars. They're also selling diamonds, but given the actual supply and demand of that, I wouldn't own diamonds as an investment. If you want to buy one as a present, that's something different. But basically, Costco is selling billions of dollars of precious metals.
Anything more to add to that, Gary, other than, hey, safeguarding against obviously what we've talked about over and over again, the eroding value of paper currency?
You know what, Rob? I think the two key points that we've already hit in this episode and we talk about on a monthly basis are: one, the dollar is losing purchasing power and will continue to lose purchasing power. You cannot save in dollars. And so if you have the resources to diversify a little bit, for me, I keep enough dollars just to pay my mortgage and pay my bills. Everything else I have invested in other things because I don't like losing purchasing power. And then the other thing is, it's another reminder: have some assets outside the system, right? You don't have $2,700 to buy gold. Okay. You can buy, for just over $1,000, you could buy platinum.
Right.
For a fraction of that, you could buy silver. And Bitcoin, as a reminder, can be bought in tiny, tiny fractions. You can buy
Mhm.
Satoshis. Buy it, stack it, hold it, and just and I'm not saying do this with all your money. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but have some assets outside the system. Start if you can. Start to save in something other than dollars. Now, for people, and I know I've talked a lot about having money outside the system, and I've talked a lot about self custody. For people who say, hey, listen, I don't care. There is no way in the world I pull together $2,700 to have an ounce of gold, then that's fine. Another option are ETFs, right? One of them is GLD. There are several of them. And if someone wants to say, hey, but then your money's in a brokerage account, it's still inside the system. Yeah, I get that. But not everybody has the means to own enough gold, for themselves or to protect it or store it securely. People have different needs. And if what you can do, listen, set aside $10 a week or $50 a week or $100 a month or whatever you can do and buy a little bit of gold, buy a little bit of Bitcoin, self custody if you can, right? But have some assets outside the system. Do something to protect yourself.